Hey everyone, this is Dr. Lisa Solcenti and Christine Kennedy. We're here today with MAHA Moms Podcast. And we're going to jump into anxiety. We want to talk about what functional medicine looks like and how it approaches anxiety, and then also homeopathy. And we do want to just bring up the fact that we are going to mention some protocols or give you some takeaways. So this isn't meant to treat or, cure anything. So we're just giving you some educational information that you could take with you. So let's get started. Christine, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm working on fumes right now, so don't mind me.
Yeah. So anxiety is one of those things I get a lot in the practice. It's one of those things that it doesn't really matter what age we're dealing with. It's there. And sometimes I have patients that come to me just for anxiety, like that's literally like their main, reason.
Debilitating.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's like in conjunction with something else. So they might say, if I'm asking them or they're filling out their patient history form and I'm asking, what are some of your health issues? What are you concerned about today? They might list anxiety as one of the problems. But when they come to me for functional medicine, I tend to think of the patient right away. The first thing I want to think of is I think of the hormones and thyroid, particularly. When you have a thyroid problem, one of the problems that come, it can be hyperthyroid where it's working too hard, or hypo where it's not working well. Anxiety is one of those things that the thyroid, when it's not even keeled, and it's too high or too low, can bring on anxiety. So that's something that I first want to think about with that patient. Like, can I check that system out? Is that working properly? And then in that field of thyroid or hormones also, and again, each as women and men, but as women at different seasons of their life, the hormones tend to wreak havoc. But so you've got, your fertile years, but then you've got your pre-menopause years, you've got your menopause years, and then you've got everything in between that goes crazy. So hormones is another thing that could create anxiety. Obviously cortisol's one, estrogen's one, testosterone's another, progesterone. So if they're off, too high, too low, it can create anxiety. It is a bit of a catch-22 sometimes too, because you're like, well, is the anxiety caused? Are you there? Because your video just went off. You could be, it could be the fact that they're stressed out, which is bringing their cortisol up, which is driving the anxiety. So we have to look at that. Your video went out, Christine.
I'm working on it.
Okay, I'll just keep going just so you know. I want to make sure you know. The other thing I think about is, so if these systems are kind of wonky, or even if they aren't, does the patient have a deficiency? And I'm really big on this one because I feel like Christine, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like society is so focused on macronutrients. So it's like carbs, how many carbs you have, how many fats are you eating, how many proteins are you taking in, right? She's back.
Sorry.
So macronutrients, everybody knows, right? It's carbs, proteins, fats, and there's people counting them. But we never talk about micronutrients, which are the reason we eat the macronutrients. So what micronutrients are is when you eat food, the digestive tract breaks the food down and then it absorbs. It's one of the main functions of the gut wall, of the leaky gut thing I'm going to get into, but your digestive tract is to absorb vitamins and minerals, amino acids, antioxidants, all these good things, which we call micronutrients because they're super, super little, and they're supposed to get absorbed in the gut wall and get into the bloodstream and do what they want. So when I think anxiety, I think, does the patient have the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the amino acids that they need to support all these other systems of the body? So again, we talked about, I think in the last one, how symptoms are something you want to listen to, but we try not to treat the symptom, right? We try to dive deeper and look at what the root cause could be. So I'm going to give you just some examples and tell
Okay.
me what you think if you want to put in your 2 cents here. B vitamins are very deficient in almost everybody I test.
Yes, me
And
too.
there's, right?
Yeah,
And
I'm division.
that could be anxiety because B vitamins are linked to that nervous system. So if you're always on that fight or flight and you're always anxious and you're always like, feeling that worry, it could be the fact that you're deficient in B vitamins. It could be something as simple as that, which would drive the thyroid not to work properly, or it might drive, the brain not to work properly because you need B12 and you need B6 for neurotransmitters. So that's a whole nother part of the brain, right? So there could be a deficiency, selenium, zinc, vitamin D, like they just go on and on. So that's one of the things I think about. And then what I think about after that is if there's a patient in front of me who goes, I eat really healthy, I'm super, I work out, I have a great lifestyle. Why are my B vitamins deficient? Or why do I not have enough vitamin D? Or whatever it is that when we talk about, it could be the gut. So that's the next part of like what my expertise is in the leaky gut. If that gut wall is not absorbing those micronutrients, but you're eating them, or maybe you're taking supplements, think about how much money we spend on
Yeah.
supplements.
I want to mention too, the supplement that I do have, because I am deficient in B12, they said to make sure that I got
Yeah.
methylcobalamin instead of the
Yeah.
other one. So could that be a reason why people are deficient? Because they're buying the, what is it, cyano?
Yeah. You want, when you take B vitamins, great. That's awesome. I'm so glad you brought that up. When you take B
Mhm.
vitamins, you want the B12 and the folate to be methylated. So you want to see that word methyl. So you want to see methylcobalamin, not just cobalamin, or you want to see methyl L folate. It's written many different ways. It's written MTHF. It's written L methylfolate. It's written 5L methylfolate. What all that fancy schmancy thing is that it's already in the absorbable form. So when it's in different forms, it needs to get converted to that methylated form. And the other reason for this, so it's just, you're going to absorb it better. That's the first reason. The other reason is, and we can have a podcast on this if you want. Um, and I do talk about this in my own podcast, Dr. Lisa Solsenti's podcast. It's literally the name of my podcast. It's called MTHFR, which is a genetic mutation. You either have it or you don't. And if you have it, your body can be, let's say, more at risk or just really struggle with methylating things, which is adding a methyl group to things so you can absorb things better or digest things better or detoxify things better. So I work with that. Typically, it's just really straight better to just buy your B vitamins with that methyl already on it. But literally what this all means is like if you're not taking the methylcobalamin, if you're not taking the methylated folate and you have MTHFR, you might not absorb your B vitamins, which, right, can create that whole anxiety, inability to focus, inability to pay attention. So I don't know if you guys know my background, but I'm a leaky gut expert, but I also really work with the autism spectrum disorder world, and anxiety is really a big thing. And MTHFR is a really big part of that. So I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even have that on my list.
Folic acid too, I have to avoid, like in breads and stuff. Like I can't
Yes.
like do any of those
So
wheat.
if you have an
In,
MTHFR problem, I just think we all should try to avoid this, but it's in
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Folic, like icky, Folic, think of ick, is a synthetic form of folate that they fortify and they enrich the foods with. And there's a big part of the population that cannot convert that to the absorbable form, which is the methylfolate.
And what happens then? Because that's where we're at. Like, I mean, I'm avoiding those things now. Um,
So what happens is if you're eating folic, the icky one, the synthetic form, and you can't break it down, you'll become toxic. Your toxic load will start rising, right?
yeah.
There's anxiety.
Mhm.
And then you're going to be deficient in the stuff you need, which is the folate, the 5L methylfolate. So a folate deficiency mimics my son we just did blood work on him and we found this because he was feeling very tired and run down and he had anxiety and a lot of the things were coming. And this is a great podcast because this is literally what I did is I just ran basic blood work. I found folate deficiency, which is an anemia. It's a form of B12, B6. You become anemic, and tired. And sometimes a folate deficiency will even mimic that you don't feel well. You might say to yourself or your kids, hey, maybe you're coming down with something. So that tiredness can be B deficiencies, folate deficiencies. MTHFR affects folate, B12, B6, glutathione, which is a main he's the main guy to detoxify things in the liver, and you also need it for your thyroid and you need it for your neurotransmitters. So that's a big one if you don't have that. And sometimes we see with MTHFR, which I did with my son, high homocysteine, which isn't good. When homocysteine gets too high, you get cardiac problems. But hear me out, homocysteine gets converted to I'm spacing at the moment. Oh my God, I just spaced. Oh, I just spaced. I'm going to say it's melatonin.
Oh yes, yeah. Vanessa could have.
Yes. So, you're not sleeping, right? They're like, I'm not sleeping because yeah, your homocysteine isn't getting converted to the melatonin. So that's another reason why you're not sleeping because you're MTHFR, and you're taking in too much folate, not enough folate. So I know this is a lot on the podcast, but anxiety can be the basic fact that it's basic, guys. It's that you're not absorbing your vitamins and your minerals, or you're not taking them in because you're not eating healthy, or both. And that's a great thing that you brought up MTHFR because that's another thing that if you have that mutation, you're just complicating this simple story, right?
I think there's so many more of us that don't even know it, that have it,
Yeah.
A lot of people know about it and they're just walking around with it and don't know.
Yeah, they don't. And so you go to the medical doctors and they're going to treat the symptoms, right? But
They
they're not.
won't even run the test sometimes. They wouldn't
won't.
do it for Jack, even though his dentist was like, I want the test run. His pediatrician was like, yeah, we don't find value in that. I was like,
So can I ask you why the dentist wanted it run?
well, because he has severe reactions to any, anesthesia. They gave him laughing gas and he turned into the Incredible Hulk, like not his
Really?
personality. Oh my God. And he didn't really have much done, but he was like hysterical. He was a little hysterical crying the whole way home. And then when we got in the house, he was so mad. He was like picking up chairs and throwing them. And I was like, I started laughing because I was like panicking because I've never seen him
Yeah,
like
he's not like that.
mild and sweet. And I was like, there is something going on here. And I didn't know how to stop it. And I was like desperate. And I was like, how you want to go out for ice cream? And then all of a sudden, like it kind of like turned. I mean, it was probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but I was like, that was the only thing I could think of to like get him out of it because he was so enraged. It was terrifying. So that's when we kind of knew, but that's also answers the questions of why he had reactions
Yeah.
to the sticks and all that stuff.
So that's a great point right there because there's literally two things in what you just said. One is that and THFR for some reason interferes with medications in some drugs. And I don't have it with me, but I give it to patients when they see me. There's this woman that does a blog. She does it fantastic. She lists all the medications that could possibly be a problem. So if you're taking the medication and you're worse, or like you said, your son is a completely different person, or it doesn't work, it could be because of the MTHFR. So she lists all of them. And one of them that's very common is methotrexate, which is they give for like rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
And I've sat down with a few MDs who have like pulled me aside in like parents' night, because their wives are like, you need to talk to her. And I explain it to them that they can't methylate it. Just pick a different medication, or hey, send them to me and we'll check out their gut and see if that's causing the inflammation in the joints. But what's really interesting what you said about the pediatrician, I have a friend that was a pediatrician and we got into this conversation and she just will not order MTHFR. And I said, what is the big deal? Besides the insurance companies might not cover it, that is a big deal because Our test is only $55 with an add-on to another test, but I have seen people get charged $400 in by LabCorp, LabQuest. Like I don't understand it. But besides that, I'd say, why can't you send them to me? I order it and say, send them back to you. And we just, and she went, eh. And I was like, my face was, she goes, why does your face look like it's like seeing a ghost? And I said, because here it is, drum roll, the sticks. If you can't detoxify the metals that are in those sticks, you're in trouble, right?
They
So
should.
a
They
little
should screen them
baby
for that.
that you give like 3 shots in one shot, or 3 sticks in one stick. Like
And then there's
I've
4 of
seen
it they
them.
want to give at a time.
What do they give 5? Sometimes they give like 3 in one and 2 in another.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They
Is
want
that
to give you
true?
4, but there's like 3 in one.
Yeah.
That's where I said no, I'm not doing 4. And he's like, oh, they could have 100 in one day. I was like, well, I'm not doing it. So I'm gonna do 2. And that's kind of how that went. And
But
then
this is all related to anxiety, right? Because now if you have heavy metals floating around in your system and your body can't detoxify it, and you keep every 6 months getting the sticks, right? Um,
Mhm.
this is in your system. This could be in your brain. It can cross the blood-brain barrier, and so this could be a problem. So MTHFR is another whammy on that. So let's put it this way. I've had this in my practice, like for this last 6 years, so many situations where a mom will have 3 kids or 2 kids, 2 are fine, 1 isn't. And the mom will swear it was after the sticks, but we'll test them and they're high. That one child that can't look you in the eyes and maybe can't speak has high heavy metals, they also have a really crazy gut, because that's the next thing I want to talk about. Microbiome is really crazy. They might have weird bacterias in there. And they also have these deficiencies because the gut isn't working properly. I know the moms feed them healthy. And the gut walls are just a mess. So they're not absorbing anything. So they have a really, really bad gut, which we can call leaky gut. And they have these high heavy metals. And where would like a 6-year-old have high heavy metals? You know, unless they're
Well,
working in some kind of.
well, I see like all the like the baby, what is it? Baby lotions and like all that stuff. Like, oh my God, I see the commercials and I'm like, I cannot even imagine like people massaging it into their kids every night. Like, and that's all got crap in it. Like it all builds up.
Yeah, that's true. The baby lotions, the baby shampoos, all that stuff to make them
Mhm.
powder. That powder, baby powder, it smells so awesome.
No, it doesn't. Not for me.
Yeah, you don't like that. So
No.
like you
Oh
have an
God.
absorbability problem. You want to think about, are the vitamins getting absorbed? Are they eating healthy? Is it affecting the thyroid, the hormones? And then the other part is other neurotransmitters are in the brain. So this is really interesting because when I deal with anxiety and I see the medications that people go on, and we'll talk about this more. I'm going to go into this deeper because in our next podcast, we're talking about depression. So everyone, I'm going to get into neurotransmitters in the brain deeper in that one. But I see what people get on, and I know I've done this for so long now. I see what the medical world's trying to do. They're treating the symptom, like they'll think that the person needs serotonin, right? That's what we'll talk about in depression. Or with anxiety, they're going to give them, they're going to try to slow down that epinephrine or norepinephrine pathway, that fight or flight. But in order to make these neurotransmitters, you need vitamins and minerals. You need iron, you need vitamin D, you need B12, you need B6, you need copper, you need all the amino acids. So if your gut isn't working properly, you're not going to make neurotransmitters. So what the medical world does is like, oh, this person's low in this neurotransmitter, we're going to give them this drug. But if they don't, it's still a problem because the gut wasn't fixed, right?
Yeah,
So a
they're
lot
just
of
shutting
it
it
is a
down like you
really
said.
bad gut.
Yeah. Well, the Pepsid too that I was taking, I'm sure I wasn't absorbing anything, right? With that for
Right.
too long chronically.
That's another problem. That's usually we see in the older people, right? As you get older, they start doing the PPIs, the antacids, and that really, really screws everything up too, because you're just not, the absorbability problem is huge. People don't get it, but your gut is like 20 something feet long and you're only, what, 5 feet, 6 feet. So it's like, this is the
Shocking
biggest
for that.
surface area inside you. And when it's not working right, it really can create some problems. So, um, I know anxiety can also come from the mind and the fear of something. I talk about this a lot when I used to do advocacy for kids, that I had a patient who had a huge, I don't even know, I'm not really good with reptiles, a humongous snake as a pet, a family pet. And I
My
can't
biggest
stand
fear.
snakes. And so I put this big snake up I was doing a presentation, a big lecture, and I was like, see that snake? I can't even look at it without like wanting to curl. Like, it's gross. I go, my brain is afraid of that snake. Like, my brain just doesn't like it, right? I have a patient that's their family pet and they play with it and so like it's perception, right? What you perceive as a threat creates fear, and that puts you in fight or flight too. So a lot of it is your mind, and there's cognitive behavioral therapy too. But um, I really think that when I worked with my son with Asperger's, and now it's autism spectrum disorders, and I really helped with anxiety because he couldn't get through a whole class. He could only get through 2 hours of school. Um, yes, we had to do cognitive therapy. We had to let him realize the fear that you think's in your head isn't going to happen, Um, but a lot of it was his gut. So once we started fixing the gut, he was able to like think something through and be a little bit more rational. And the response wasn't always fight or flight. He was always just like, he was a runner. He just ran. So I really can't express how important the gut is, gut health, and even your gut microbiome, getting the right probiotic in there, rebuilding all those microorganisms is really important to anxiety. And what I like to do is I love to work with the person's gut. I try to get in there and figure out what's causing the problem and put together a plan to fix it. But then what we do is we have a protocol. And this is where we're going to roll into homeopathy, because I really think that where Christine and I are going to do well together is that I do really, really well at getting people to overcome their health problems. Like, I'm pretty proud of that. Like, it's been 10 years. I really am good at that. But there is this lifelong chronic thing that once they're better, what do you do with them? Right? Because you're still going out into the world and you're still going to be anxious. So I
There's still
believe
trauma, there's
homeopathy.
family history, like
Yeah.
down through the generations.
I'm
That
teaching them
are
to eat
coming.
better. I'm teaching them to heal their gut. I'm teaching them to get all the systems in balance. But how do we maintain that? And I feel like with homeopathy, um, really, really helps somebody have a repertoire in their house that they could do some things in their own. Once they get their gut better, you're still gonna be stressed out, right?
Yeah,
The world is
yeah.
stressful.
There's
Um,
different things that can affect, family generations, or even just the person that can be uprooted with homeopathy,
yeah. Um,
which, yeah.
I'm going to give you guys a few things that you can, I'm not saying you should try, because again, I'm not treating you over this. I will never treat you over. I refuse to treat over email. So you could email me all you want. I'm not going to treat over a podcast. You need to be in front of me, and I need to really get into your health history and see what's going on there. But a B complex, a multivitamin is really a great place to start, and make sure that it says the folate is methylated. I'm so glad you brought that up. And the B12 is methylated. A B complex on top of the multivitamin can't hurt too, because multivitamins don't have a lot of it. There's just, in that little pill is so many nutrients. So a B complex is really good specifically for the brain balance and anxiety. Um, I love magnesium. That really helps. You just need to know that citrate is the one that's more of a laxative. I take 2 of those at night to help me go, because with a thyroid problem, you get constipated. But you don't really want that one if you don't have constipation. So you could do like glycinate,
Yeah,
uh,
that's
any other different form of magnesium. L-theanine is something that really helps with the neurotransmitters and the fight or flight.
I have to write that down. Okay.
Yeah, these are just things you can try. They're different for everybody. So sometimes you can buy a supplement that has a little bit of each in them, or sometimes you could just try them by themselves. But L-theanine is big. There are supplements with L-theanine, rhodiola together. You'll see that, or ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, you have to be careful. You can't take that with everything. So just Google these things. If you're taking a medication, Google them, mix them. You got to do your little bit of your own research here. One of my patients loved this one product, and I started using it with a lot of patients, and it's a big hit. It's a liposomal GABA with L-theanine. So GABA is the neurotransmitter that calms us. Again, I don't like giving people these supplements because I like to test neurotransmitters and I want to know which one's really off and which vitamins are off, and I go from there. I really go down deep to the root cause. But if you're in a, he always said to me, my patient's like, well, I'm in a pinch, Dr. Lisa, I'm stressing out at work and I just need something. So we found this liposomal. It's made by Quicksilver. Have you heard of that brand?
No.
It's, the company's called Quicksilver. It's not our surf t-shirts that we used to sell.
That's the first thing I thought.
It's like Quicksilver Scientific, and it comes in a pump. It's GABA with L-theanine, and he uses it through the day to just calm himself down. Like when you were freaking out before, you're like, I need something. And you could take it at night, you could take it during the day. Liposomal means it's a liquid. What they do is the particle is a nanoparticle where it's really small. They wrap it in a fat, and when you put it in your tongue, you swish it around, it gets absorbed in the bloodstream right in your mouth. So that's why it's fast acting. It's absorbable. It doesn't have to go through the digestive tract. So that's a great one. That's a great one to use every day or as needed. So that's like GABA with L-theanine, and it's made by Quicksilver. And I can, you could always reach out to me if you need help, and I can show you it. I can send you it. I have a little dispensary called Full Script that I use with people. I don't really give people neurotransmitters like 5-HTP or SAM or any of those things until I do some testing. I don't like really doing that, but some people have played with those too. But that's a whole process that I get really deep into. So tell me now about the homeopathic part of what I know. That I've come to her with my my own anxiety and my son's anxiety. And I have it all written down, but it's so interesting. I want you guys to hear it.
I definitely have dealt with a lot of anxiety myself over the years. From a lot of different inputs, PTSD and different, things that happen along the way. I do want to mention, and I just kind of threw it at the top of my paper as you were talking, that high anxiety can also be related to high histamine levels. So I think that's where mine comes from a lot because of my mast cell disorder, that calming down the histamine naturally is something that can help your anxiety. So that, and then also you mentioned cortisol. And that was another thing that excuse my throat, this is just part of mast cell disorder. Cortisol, I had made some changes a couple years ago that I noticed a big difference. And what I was doing was I would wake up and my first thing that I wanted was coffee. It was like my ritual, and it was on an empty stomach. And then I didn't need to eat until 2 o'clock in the afternoon because, I was like intermittent fasting, even though I broke the fast with the coffee, but it's still, to me was the same.
Yeah.
So, I was a train wreck at that, and I knew it, but I didn't know it. Like, I didn't know there was another way. So, and that was a time when I was like dealing with child study teams. So like I would get phone calls and I'd be like so shot from like my adrenals and like all of that going. And I'm like trying to deal with like real life serious problems and I couldn't like think straight. It was terrible. So I finally had like done my research. And this is one of the best things about social media is what I've learned from other people just sharing. And I think that's what kind of drew me to share more too. But
I think that's kind of what made us create this podcast too, is
yeah,
to share
totally.
information.
I forced myself to eat breakfast before I had coffee, and I forced myself to eat at least 30 grams of protein in that breakfast before I have coffee. So that was a big change. And the first week, I didn't want to eat. I wasn't hungry. Like it was, I had to force myself, but I knew that what the advantages were going to be if I did make the changes. So I now eat a lot and I follow Weston A. Price diet. If people want to look that up. It involves like a lot of like animal fats, and eggs and like just whole foods. It's almost like a Whole30. But I do believe that those animal fats and things like that can nourish your brain also.
definitely.
I have to
Def
say, since I started doing it, like I will cook dog food for my dogs. Like I'll buy like that big chub of ground beef. And then what I do is I strain it out and then I put the solid, like the fat in the fridge to solidify. And then I use that to cook with during
Right,
the week for different things
yeah.
and stuff like that. But since I did that, my triglycerides went from 159 to 98, and I wasn't even really trying. So I just want to mention that it's like an add-on, has nothing to do with anxiety, but I do want to say that, people are afraid of these things and really they could be very beneficial. So you can go
But
on their
it
website.
does have something to do with anxiety. There's 2 things there, is the fact that healthy fats feed the brain, and
Mm,
anxiety can come from that neurotransmitter, that fight or flight, it come from the brain. Um, and also, most of us, like, I don't love breakfast either, but most of us don't eat. Like, there's a lot of people who just don't eat all day. And so even kids, think about it, they go to school and they really don't eat, they don't eat healthy. So
yeah.
the fact
Or
that you're
eating
taking
waffles on the way out the door.
what I'm hearing is you're starting to eat and you're eating healthy foods, which have
Mhm.
all the micronutrients in them.
It
And
makes such a
healthy
difference.
fats feed the brain.
It was the best thing, well, beside homeopathy that I did. Um, because now also I'm like solid through the day, except for when I don't have sleep, like today. But I feel so much better, not shaky. I feel like clear. And I don't eat at night. Like
Right.
I'm done after dinner. And where before I was like, what's in the pantry? Like every couple hours after dinner. And so that really made a difference in that way too. But for the anxiety, I have dealt with tremendous anxiety just because of everything that's gone on. But I want to mention the one that helped me the most was aconite. And there's a
Take notes.
famous homeopath that mentioned that aconite can release a shock that has been held in the body for a lifetime. And that was so profound to me because it can help so many people that have had events that have happened to them, like the death of a loved one, the death of, a child, like things that you could never get over, yourself. Y- This can actually help, like, let it go. So, I had a real fear of driving after everything that had gone on because of my dizzy spells. That could be terrifying while you're driving a automobile on a road with other people, and now you're dizzy. Like, I didn't want to do it, but like, I can't not drive. So it really was the one. It's for the anxiety where you get palpitations, where it's just tremendous fear, um, any kind of trauma, nightmares, phobias. And I'm going to read this because there's so much to all of these that I can't do it all from memory. Um, but I didn't want to forget anything either. So panic, fear of the future, fear of death, shock, afraid to go out, fear of crowds, and never well since. So like never well since, and it makes me think of my one dear friend who did lose her son, and that's kind of my thought of it. She's not been well since, like well enough, but like shaky and like, it's just
No
part
words.
of you. It's in your DNA at
Yeah.
that point, you know? Um, so that is one that has been awesome for me, but it served its purpose. Like I don't have the palpitations anymore, and I don't have like all of those things. My anxiety now is different where I'm more of a worrier. So it's changed. So I'm gonna like list off the other ones that are good for anxiety and the different characteristics of them. I'm sharing this not to tell people what to take. I'm sharing it to give the information that you can go and do your own research and look up these different remedies and what they do. Um, you can decide to either take a class and learn yourself, or you could hire a homeopath and work with them. But I want people to know that there's things out there that can help them that are not going to be medications because I was on Lexapro, I was on Valium, like, and what a ride that was. It can really detour your life. And I want to help prevent people from going down that road. So arsenicum is one that's for extremely nervous people or anxious. People that beg for help, they're clingy, they're desperate, they're fastidious, they're always cleaning, they're pacing, restlessness, uh, always wanting to change their place, sitting, standing. There's a fear of death, there's fear of disease, a fear of germs, fear, and they want to be held. They want reassurance, they lack courage, and they frighten easily. And I had someone in my class recommend that I should try arsenicum next after I was done with aconite because I still had that fear of driving every once in a while. So I was like, really? Like, I never resonated with arsenicum. Like, it just isn't me, but okay. Like, if you think so, I'll try it because sometimes other people could see things that you can't see. So
Yeah.
I did start to take it and I started to prove it. Improving is where you take a remedy and you actually start to experience the symptoms. And this is why you need to know kind of what you're doing when you do this. Um, but can you hear my dog snoring?
No,
I have a 150-pound dog in here.
I don't know if anyone else can, but I
Snoring.
can.
And that's why we lost the camera before, because I was like, oh my God, they're gonna hear him snoring. So I was trying to hook in the mic because I forgot about it this time. And I was gonna put this on, thought it would be more direct instead of like the general one that I thought was picking up his snoring. So he's getting loud. So if anybody hears that, that's good.
Here.
Anyway.
We
Um,
don't care.
so uh arsenicum, I would start to fear like health issues again. And I haven't had that since before I started homeopathy. Like once I started homeopathy, I didn't fear my health anymore. I didn't fear going to the emergency room anymore because I have so much faith and just belief in it that I know I can handle certain situations and I could treat almost anything with it, that I don't have those fears anymore. So when I started to get those thoughts again, I was like, it's this friggin' arsenicum. So I stopped taking it and it went away. So that was good. But for people that do fear, have a lot of health anxiety, which when you're having all those symptoms like I did before I got diagnosed, and you're going from doctor to doctor and they're telling you that it's in your head or, whatever, it doesn't show anything in the testing, I've never heard of it, all these things, you do start to like worry more about your health and what it really could be. Um, and then people that are fear of flying, a good remedy is Argentum nitricum. It's for anticipatory anxiety. It's for hurriedness. People that are impatient, fear of public speaking, and fear of heights are some of the points for that. So you can look these up on Dr. Homeo is a good website to look things up on there. There's some free online materia medicas also that you can look up all the remedies in. And also, I want to mention, I'm not done, but I do want to mention before I forget that Joette Calabrese is who is my mentor. And I took her Gateway to Homeopathy 1 and 2 before I started her academy. And I recommend that for everyone. But what was my point?
What's a book you recommend?
Oh, well, it's expensive, but this is the best one. This is he's Robin Murphy. He's amazing.
Oh, yeah,
He
you were
taught
talking about him
himself.
before
He taught
last time.
himself homeopathy as a teenager on his own.
Wow.
And then he went to college for it in California. And then once he graduated, they made him the director of the whole department because he was actually, as a student, treating the teachers. He's amazing. He just
No, it's
passed
going
away.
on.
But he has the best books. And what's so amazing about it is when you go in and each remedy is listed, but underneath each remedy, there's different like sections and it will tell you literally what happened, like what it does in each part of the body. So like say we want to look up Argentum nitricum or whatever, um, it'll tell you what it does as far as, wait, let me see. It's on Bible paper and it's over 2,000 pages long. It's such an awesome book.
Bible paper.
Like
It's on Bible paper.
yeah,
I
this
just
is
have
they
paper.
had to because otherwise it would probably be this
Yeah.
thick.
Or two books.
Um but let me just get to it. It goes through the mind and the okay, it goes from like it's in alphabetical order. The abdomen, the back, the chest, the ears, the head, the heart, the limbs, the mouth, the rectum, the stomach, stool, throat. I mean, so you could just look it up and see what the action is on each part of the body, and it's so thorough. This is the best one. But there are free ones online. So if people want to look them up, they can. Just search, free materia medica. Um, and I was talking about Gillette and her gateway to glasses, and I forget the reason why. And after we watch this back, I'll know, but whatever, it'll be too late. But anyway, then gelsemium. I've used
Gelsenium, is that what a G? Or
gelsemium, it's GELSEMIUM.
okay.
It's for social anxiety.
Oh, there we go.
Doctor,
That's a big one.
yeah, doctor and dentist appointments that you're like
Oh,
getting nervous about coming up, and
that's like everybody, I
you,
think.
you can start taking it when
Who
you're
does?
experiencing the symptoms, like even if it's like a week ahead of time.
That's what I was going to ask you. So if you're having anxiety going to the dentist,
Yeah.
when would you take Gelsenium?
When you have that pang, that
As soon as you feel it, like even if it's a week ahead and you're like, oh, I have this appointment next week and I don't want to go.
if it's enough that it's
I think I'm
bothering
going to
you,
cancel.
I mean, I wouldn't pop them like crazy, but if it's enough that it's really like bothering you or disrupting you or repetitive, like, I would try it. But it's also um for mental exhaustion involved with this fear, um, desire to be alone, they want to be quiet, they have stage fright. Um, and it's funny, I use this because my son is in a band, and now since I've been homebound for 12 years, I don't go out a lot. And so, and I love my home, like we're homebodies, so it really hasn't been an issue. But now he's in a band and he plays far away. And my husband and I are complete opposites. And he likes, like, he's fine driving. He commutes 3 hours a day. So he's very confident in his driving. But he's the kind of driver that will be like, oh, I need a soda. Let me reach to the back seat and get the 2-liter bottle of soda and fill my drink as I'm driving with my knees. Okay. And hello, I would drive if I could, but I don't drive on the parkway. So, I mean, talk about anxiety building up to this event. Like, I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get there. Like, I don't know. You're going to have to like knock me out, get me there. So, anyway,
And
I
I know this because
popping.
she's gone to these rallies with me and where she's like, you just have to drive me. And
Yeah, no, I'm fine. You're a good driver. I'm
oh,
okay.
she was okay.
It's him.
Except we couldn't find the car at one point.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Like, where
It's
did we park it?
that part. Yeah, that was a little nerve-wracking.
Sorry, go
Um, so I started popping gelsemium like the week before because I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, and it was at night on the parkway. I'm just not a parkway fan, like, whatever. So I popped them and I popped them. And then that day, I'm like, oh, geez, no, I popped so many that I did start to prove that one too. But I was like, I needed it to get home because now we're driving home. And he's like, he didn't know the road ended and he's going like too fast. And I'm like, oh my God, let me take another one. So I just started to get like the chills kind of when I got home and I was like shaky and like, so I put on the infrared light and that kind of set me straight. And I took camphor, which it will cancel remedies. And since I was already home, I was like, we're going to need to cancel this one, warm myself up. And I was totally fine. I went to sleep. But anyway, so gelsemium is good for all like the anticipatory anxiety. And then this is one I just really learned about because I knew that coffee cruda was for people that couldn't sleep, but it also helps people that have anxiety, that have like a clear mind at night, that have a lot of thoughts, and that's what keeps them from going to sleep is more the anxiety of like all the things running through their head.
Let's spell that one because that one's definitely a problem with a lot of my patients is they can't sleep.
Oh, coffee
And their
cruda is
mind's racing. Coffee?
Coffea. So it's like coffee, but without the last E and put an A. And then the second word is cruda. These are all Latin terms.
Yeah, I know. Coffee.
Cruda.
I know a little bit of these from medical terminology, yeah.
What was
How
that?
they break it up. No, yeah. Oh, they use a lot of Latin in medical terminology.
Yeah, I
They
need my
create it.
phone to know Latin because can I tell you how much time I waste texting people the names or if I talk it and it is nothing even like I,
My
it,
father had Latin as a kid. Um, and Roman Catholic schools his whole life. Like it's all Roman, his
so
parents died from
helpful
Italy.
to know that.
So
Yeah.
Latin's a big part. And he's so upset when they started taking out of schools because he said it's
Yeah.
the base of so many
It's
words,
the root. Yes.
the root of like, he's like, you just would understand words and languages better, no matter what field you're in.
Yes.
He was
I think
upset
it's
that
totally
they
important.
goes out of schools. I remember that being a big thing. And I was like, calm down. You don't want to learn it anyway.
Oh, geez, I'm already, my wheels are turning. I'm like, I need to make an app that people can put on their phone that they can, they know the Latin terms. It'll just like auto correct for you.
Yeah.
Um, but also I want to mention that they talk a lot. They're very loquacious, I guess they say.
The coffee
Um,
crewed up. We're still on that one to sleep, right?
yeah, this is the last one. Hurried in movements, they're irritable, nervous, trembling hands, sensitive to noise and palpitations. It's what if you drank too much coffee, it's that kind of those feelings are what
That
coffee
makes sense.
handles. But I would say the main one for me is aconite for people that do deal with like palpitations and fears and panic attacks. That one was
Is
like
agony.
huge for me.
That's a good place that you'd recommend to start too, right? The
What's
agony.
that?
Would you, I don't even know this, so I'm just asking a question. Like,
Yeah.
would that be a good place to start is the aconite because you're
It
uprooting some of the stuff that we all have?
it has to be something that's very traumatic. I mean, they
Okay.
really have to experience like acute like fear and panic, palpitations. Um, or any kind of like shocking event that happens, like even if you're out and there's an accident that you witnessed or it didn't happen to you, like if you are rattled, then aconite would be something that's good.
Okay.
And I don't know that I've done this yet because we haven't really talked much about homeopathy. Like we have, but not actually like the remedies and stuff. I just want to show people what they look like.
Oh yeah, we haven't done.
People don't know what
We're
homeopathy
just
is.
talking about this stuff.
They think it's holistic and it's not. It's literally like a form of medicine. I have a ridiculous amount. And they're not all in their holders.
And
Um,
as she's going through this, I want to tell people that I didn't use really, I can't think of anything to be honest with you, medications with my kids. I think we may have talked about that in my story.
yeah,
And I would run to, we had one health food store here because this place was archaic 20 years ago. And Pete, if you're there, he has Nature's Nutrition. It's right near my office in Brick, but I run over there and he's a pharmacist that was changing his pharmacy into health food. And these little things that she's about to show you, he literally had this big cubby hole with all of them in there. We would look up the symptoms. We didn't really have any, there was no internet at the time. So it was
yeah,
like he would be like, what is your child feeling? What's the baby feeling? Symptoms, maybe not actually feeling. And we would
he
just
has the
see that
best selection.
this is how I quote treated unquote my children for
You can
all
take
these
place with
years.
everything.
I
Like,
didn't do medicine.
I
So
wish I
took them.
knew.
And it's little pellets that go in your under your tongue.
Yes, yes. And this is kind of how I organize the Boiron ones.
Okay.
It's considered like a pen case or like a marker case. I got it.
Hold up one of the
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna
called
um
a little vial
do. I love these.
tube.
This is a different brand, Helios. I get these on Amazon too.
Yeah,
They're
she
in
likes
the
that.
what's that?
You like the Helio? What's it called? Helio?
Helios. They're in the UK. But what I like is that this brand is 5 pellets is a dose, and this brand 1 pellet is a dose.
Okay.
So it's just less, because if you're there's some days like when I had to get my tooth pulled last week, and now I'm not recommending this, but I might have taken 11 different remedies that day because I
Lot.
was in so much pain that, 11 times 5, that's 55 of these. And they're sugar pellets. They taste good. They're like candy. But I'd rather not have all that. So that's why I do like the Helios.
They're
It's
so easy to give to kids because they're sugary and the kids love them, and you just gotta make sure they don't take
mm,
you down. Just like, nope, you take I think the kids I did 3 instead of
yeah,
5.
yeah, you
And
can.
I was like, nope, 3 is now. You can have a little bit and a little bit later, and we'll see how your symptoms go. You need to give it time and listen to the symptoms. But um,
And that's funny because my teacher has 7 kids, one of the teachers. And they've actually ate the bottle before. But what the good thing is about homeopathy is that it can't really hurt you, and they do say like there's different schools of thought. We do practical homeopathy, but with classical homeopathy, like how Vanessa said, oh, we just take 1 pellet. So like even though this calls for 5, they believe that you just need 1.
right,
It's really whatever. If I'm
school
like,
of thoughts. Yeah,
oh, I'm, out and I only have 2, well, I'm still gonna take it and it still does help. So what happens is the way that they make it, they're sugar pellets, and then they spray on the outside the coating with the remedy. So that's why they tell you not to handle them as much. Um,
did not know that.
but so they say 5 sometimes because they're not sure, like, if they all got coded or whatever, it's just like a security blanket or whatever. But what you actually do to dispense them is like you twist this to break it, and then you turn it upside down. And each time you turn it, a pellet drops out. Did you just hear him snore really?
No,
And a pellet drops out, and then you just keep turning it until there's 5, and then you just take the cap off and use it like a shot glass.
yeah.
So it's very convenient. Like I keep some next to the bed for nighttime things like snoring. So Kevin will be, in the middle of sleeping, and I'm like, I get it out, and I'm like, Kevin, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, open your mouth. And I literally just like, I'm
I
like,
have to
lift your
try that.
tongue, because I
I
don't
have to
want
try
him
that.
to inhale it. So I'm like, lift your tongue, make sure it's,
You know what it is,
under the
love.
tongue. But it's very convenient. Uh,
We're
and he,
all we're all gonna start shoving them down our husbands' throats. Stop snoring.
but like I said before, the Nux
Kennedy.
vomica is great for snoring, but it also is great for like an attitude adjustment. So it works double.
Which one?
Nux vomica. It
Nux.
could be people that get like irritated or aggravated at certain things. Like it just depends. I mean, you could still take it if they don't, but sometimes it works out.
Right, put down. You see him? He's going in Carl's mouth. Nuts.
And then I keep the cases next to the bed because that's more for like apnea. I have like some kind of structural issue where like half of my tonsil is like blocking. So I use that one. But anyway, so I the difference that it's made compared to what the anxiety medicine that they had put me on over the years in my life is like black and white, where this, like we were saying with Vanessa, it just keeps elevating your health, and sometimes it just goes away, whatever the issue is. Where the Lexapro I was on for 4 years, I was like throwing bills in a pile, like you're so numb, you can't feel anything.
And
And
that's the thing I feel like you and Vanessa were really hitting home in the last podcast was that you lost your authentic self. You're just numb. Like we lost Christine. We're like, where'd she go? And all our friends were like, where is she? And then when she started going through homeopathy, it's like Christine budded back. She just came
yeah,
back. And we're
it's
like,
crazy. And who would have ever thought that it was possible? I
yeah,
really
that numb. When you said
didn't
numb, that
know.
just hit home.
And I didn't know. And then there was the Valium that they put me on for 10 years. And if
Becomes
the
your
liquid started
normal.
to do it.
It just becomes you. It becomes your norm, and it's not normal in any way,
God,
shape, or form.
I really feel robbed. Like I was robbed of 20 years of my life. I spent the 10 sick with nobody being able to tell me what was wrong with me. And then the 10 over medicated. Like, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, we need to go on vacation. We
Got
need
out of
to
jail.
do things,
Oh, like,
So I do feel robbed, but
medical jail.
there's worse things in life. Everyone has their cross to bear and all of that. So it is what it is. But that's why I want to share with other people before they get, off the track like I did and waste 20 years of their life, that there are things that can help you that are natural, that will uplift your health and change your life. So, and that's why I'm giving names of remedies, because I want people to know what the possibilities are. And then go and do your own research or find your, and we can even put a link here to my school with the people that have graduated. There's like a find a homeopath. So if
Right.
you are interested in getting help, I still have a few more months left. There's people that you can hire and get help that way. So
Yeah.
that's all.
But definitely look up Christina in a few months because she's going to be
Yes, yes.
in her
I
practice.
am helping people. I'm helping a lot of people all day long, all night long.
She is.
Um,
Oh, yes,
but
yes.
they're friends and family and friends and family and family friends and all that. So it's growing and growing, and I'm happy to do it. It brings me joy. So
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
yeah.
And that's it. Basically, follow us on Instagram as well, where we right, and
Well,
YouTube.
we're sharing clips in Instagram. We're both busy, really busy. So I feel bad because, we both have other, social medias to keep up with too for our different things. And I wish we could put more into that. And there will definitely be more into that once I'm done with school.
Yeah.
But for now, it's just, sharing clips from our different shows that we do for people, that haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And just when the new podcasts come out, they're listed up there, and we're trying to share more to stories, but that's a work in progress.
Right.
Definitely find us there.
Yeah. So thanks for hanging out today with us, and we'll see you at the next podcast.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Bye.